In 1945, as World War II came to a close, nations worldwide breathed a sigh of relief. However, on the Korean peninsula, two nations, North and South Korea, continued to clash in a bitter struggle for control.
Here, let's fly, boys! Take all the credit!
By 1950, with China's backing, North Korea had seized most of the peninsula. The United States, as an ally, swiftly deployed its troops to aid South Korea. Amidst this turmoil, U.S. fighter pilot Tom was reassigned to Kingston, a northern U.S. city. Upon arrival, Tom met Jesse, a black pilot. In an era marred by racism, Tom was impressed by Jesse's military service. Attempting to break the ice, Tom tried striking up a conversation, but Jesse responded curtly and walked away. Taken aback by Jesse's demeanor, Tom let out a deep sigh. After meeting the other pilots, they gathered for their commander's briefing. Following the formation selection, Jesse and Tom were paired together. After the patrol, Tom asked Jesse, "What's the deal with flying so low earlier? Ain't there a minimum altitude rule?" Jesse responded casually, "As pilots, we gotta be able to handle any terrain without being tied down by rules. Just consider it a drill, man." Tom let out a deep sigh. That night, the white pilots threw a party at the commander's house. One of them pulled Tom aside and warned him, "Don't get too cozy with black pilots like Jesse or you'll run into trouble, buddy." Meanwhile, Jesse headed back home to his housing complex. His family was the only African-American family in the complex. Neighbors kept their distance. Almost daily, some neighbor would call the cops to harass Jesse's family over nothing. Despite the tough life, Jesse stayed happy with his wife and little daughter. The next day, the U.S. naval commander showed up at the base. He told them that, according to intel, some big shot from the Soviet Union was going to attack the Mediterranean Sea border within days. The commander said the president had ordered all pilots at the base to join the battle, so the pilots had to practice landing on a ship the following day. The training kicked off the next day. Thanks to his previous training at the base, Tom had practiced landing on a ship before, so he nailed it with ease. Unfortunately, when it was Jesse's turn, he failed. But Jesse didn't give up. He tried again, and with the support of the African-American cooks on the ship, he finally succeeded on his second attempt.
"I'm coming back around!" "You're still too high, Brown." "Crew, stand by." "I'll get there!" All right, Jesse.
As the days went by, Jesse and Tom started to bond. When Jesse's car broke down, Tom even offered to drive him home. To Tom, Jesse was more than just a great pilot, he was a fellow comrade. One afternoon, Jesse invited Tom over to his place. Tom was warmly welcomed by Jesse's family. Jesse's wife shared that every time her husband came home from work, he'd tell her all about his adventures with Tom. Despite Tom being white, Jesse's wife hoped he'd always be there for her husband. Tom was touched by her words and promised to watch Jesse's back in battle. The next day, they set off for the war zone. After arriving at their destination, Jesse, Tom, and the other pilots continued to train on the ship while keeping watch for a Soviet attack. However, during training, Jesse and Tom noticed one of their comrades flying too low.
Make the deck.
He'll make it.
Stand by. Crash crew, stand by. Still low, Maury.
The pilot died. Everyone was shocked by what they had just witnessed. The war hadn't even started yet, but they had already lost one of their own. That night, Jesse confided in Tom, saying that he felt responsible for the pilot's death. Jesse had often advised the pilot to fly by instinct and not be bound by the rules. Jesse also shared his own struggles to become a pilot, facing intense discrimination during training. While white pilots were only required to take a swimming test once, Jesse had to take it 10 times. He was submerged underwater, sprayed with cold water, and even forced to dive until he passed out. Tom tried to comfort Jesse, reassuring him that he wasn't to blame. The next night, while the ship was docked in France, Jesse and the others went to a bar. As they were chatting and enjoying the evening, a soldier from the army approached Jesse, insulting and challenging him to a fight. Jesse tried to stay calm, telling the soldier to leave him alone, but the soldier continued to threaten him. Just as things were escalating, police sirens blared in the distance. The soldiers scattered, including Jesse and Tom. When the situation calmed down, Jesse asked Tom why he had defended him. Tom replied that his actions had nothing to do with Jesse's skin color. To Tom, a friend was a friend, no matter what. In the middle of the night, the commander summoned all pilots and informed them that North Korean and Chinese forces had surrounded South Korea. Due to the emergency, all pilots were required to be ready for battle the next day. Their mission would be to bomb the enemy's road access. The next day, November 1950, the American troops ship finally arrived in Korean waters. With everyone ready, Tom, Jesse, and the other pilots began their attack. Mid-flight, the commander encountered issues and had to return to the ship. To ensure the mission's success, the commander assigned Tom to lead the attack.
Sam? Negative. I'm gonna bring him to you through the canyon. Tom, he's on me pretty good. Up and on my call. Fine, Jesse. This is Panther lead, approaching target. Flight lead.
Amidst the intense enemy fire, Tom ordered the pilots to retreat, but Jesse refused, insisting on completing the mission. The mission was a success. That night, the commander announced that their mission was accomplished. Now, they just had to wait for reports from the army troops who were launching a ground attack. If everything went smoothly within a month, they could return to the Mediterranean. The commander also instructed Tom, the mission leader, to write a report. A week passed, and one day, Jesse told Tom that he had just received a warning letter from their superiors due to Tom's report. Since reports couldn't leave out any details, Tom had to mention Jesse's disobedience during the previous mission. Jesse was deeply disappointed. To Tom, the letter was just a routine warning, but to Jesse, a black pilot, it could mean dismissal. Upon hearing his friend's words, Tom felt guilty. To make amends, he asked other pilots to write reports highlighting Jesse's exceptional performance during the previous mission. However, instead of being grateful, Jesse said it was all in vain. Once a black soldier was found guilty of a mistake, they would be forever tarnished. The next day, while Jesse was lost in thought, the head chef approached him and handed him an expensive watch, saying it was a gift from the collective efforts of the chefs to support Jesse. Witnessing Jesse's remarkable achievements as a pilot, the head chef and other black chefs felt ashamed. They had realized that black people could achieve far more than they had previously thought. Jesse was taken aback, feeling ashamed for being so defeated by a simple warning letter. After all, even if he were to be dismissed, he could always start again. Meanwhile, Jesse's wife was reading a letter from her husband. Every week, Jesse routinely sent letters and shared his daily life on the ship. Three days later, the commander announced that the U.S. Army was on the verge of defeat. Therefore, the pilots had to return to the battlefield to provide support. The commander warned that this mission would be more perilous than the previous one, as their planes would be flying directly into the combat zone. Upon hearing this, all the pilots fell silent. Despite their fear, they knew their duty. As soldiers, they had to be prepared for battle. The next day, the attack began.
Can't let the Fly Boys take all the credit!
Tom, Jesse, and the other pilots successfully pushed back the enemy forces. As the situation began to calm down, Tom noticed smoke coming from Jesse's plane wing. Tom immediately ordered Jesse to make an emergency landing. However, just as Jesse was about to land, his plane's propeller jammed.
Release drop tanks. I'm not gonna make the clearing! Come on!
From above, Tom continuously called out to Jesse, but there was no response. Worried, Tom decided to land his plane as well. As Tom examined Jesse's condition, he was shocked. Half of Jesse's body was severely injured, trapped under the plane's wreckage. Tom tried multiple times to save him, but to no avail. All they could do now was wait for help to arrive. Hours passed, and Jesse's condition worsened. Just as he was about to take his last breath, a rescue helicopter finally arrived. As Tom attempted to cut through the plane's wreckage, Jesse weakly called out to him. Jesse asked Tom to deliver a final message to his wife back home, that he loved her dearly. After uttering those words, Jesse took his last breath. Witnessing his friend's demise right before his eyes, Tom was left speechless. Due to their location still being in the midst of the battlefield, the evacuation team urged Tom to board the helicopter immediately and leave Jesse behind. Before departing, Tom promised Jesse that he would return to retrieve his body. Upon arriving at the ship, Tom pleaded with the commander to send a team to retrieve Jesse's body. However, given the location's proximity to enemy territory and the current hazardous conditions, the commander couldn't take the risk. The only option was to wait until the war ended to bring Jesse's body home.
Oh, Tom.
Yesterday, we lost a great aviator.
His loss is felt all across this ship. Our country needed Jesse Brown.
Losing a friend is like losing a part of your soul that will never return, but the beautiful memories we create together will live on, giving us the strength to move forward and face tomorrow. After a year, the war finally came to an end. At a ceremony, the president honored Tom for his bravery. Tom wasn't the only one recognized. Jesse's wife accepted an award on behalf of her late husband. After the ceremony, Tom, still feeling guilty, apologized to Jesse's wife for not being able to protect him in battle. Smiling as she listened to Tom's words, Jesse's wife said she had only asked one thing from the beginning: for Tom to promise to always be by her husband's side. And Tom had kept that promise. Instead of accepting Tom's apology, Jesse's wife thanked him. "Thank you. You've been my husband's loyal friend all along."